So what's going on in 2023? Well, looking back on this year, it has been absolutely wild. Like, seriously, some game-changing stuff has happened. A lot of the biggest things seem to all just happen towards the end of this year. So I do have to say, I think 2023 is going to be very interesting. And with that being said, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to talk about it. Here's what I can see happening next year in the sneaker world, and I'd love for you guys to share your thoughts on all of this down in the comment section as well. So something that I personally kind of thought would slow down this year was Jordan Brand's big push for the Jordan 2. And I think this push started off really solid. We got the Off-White collaboration in 2021, which seemed to be received very well. And then earlier this year, we started seeing a bunch more collaborations like the Unions and the Amamenyur, which in my opinion, I thought were pretty solid collaborations. But as good as those collaborations were, it's still a Jordan 2. I mean, it's never been Jordan Brand's most successful model. But Jordan Brand decided to push forwards, dropping a bunch more collaborations and even some GR colorways, which inevitably all just ended up sitting on shelves. And even the final release for 2022 was the big one. It was the return of the Chicago Jordan 2. And you guessed it, they ended up sitting on shelves as well. Now, it turns out Jordan Brand's plan for the Jordan 2 next year is actually pretty massive. Like, they've got a ton of upcoming collaborations and just new colorways in the pipeline for next year. However, in my opinion, I don't think the hype is really there, and I think we're gonna be seeing a lot of Jordan 2 sneakers sitting on shelves next year. So moving past the Jordan 2s, I want to touch on the Jordan 1 because it's literally been like one of Jordan Brand's most popular sneaker models this year. And I think next year in 2023, it's going to become a lot more apparent that the Jordan 1 hype is just really slowing down. Like, as we reached the later half of 2022, we started seeing a lot more Jordan colorways sitting on shelves. And while you could make an argument that it's just the colorways that just weren't good enough to sell out, I have seen a lot worse colorways sell out back in 2020 and 2021 than we've seen this year. Now, overall, I don't think we can write off the Jordan 1 for 2023. I think the hype is definitely still there to some degree. And given that there's not really much to take its place, I don't think the hype is going to die off completely. But I think the decline in the hype for the Jordan 1 silhouette is definitely going to continue declining in 2023. That brings us to Jordan Brand's knight in shining armor coming through to save the day. It's the Jordan 4. I think it's been pretty apparent this year that the Jordan 4 model has definitely been rising in hype and becoming Jordan Brand's most popular sneaker. And I think honestly in 2023 this is going to continue and become a lot more apparent that now the Jordan 4 is Jordan Brand's most popular sneaker. Looking at what's to come for the Jordan 4 model next year is actually pretty dope. There's a decent amount of solid colorways, and I do think that a lot of these colorways are going to crush it next year. Now, before we move on from Nike and Jordan Brand, there is one more sneaker that I want to talk about, and that is the Nike Dunk. Now, Dunks have been booming for a while now, and even with Nike dropping every colorway, style, and collaboration you could ever possibly imagine, they still are not dying. And honestly, I can't see them dying in 2023 either. I think in 2020 and 2021, it was the peak of the Nike Dunk hype where every single colorway imaginable was selling out and reselling. And this year, most Dunks did sell out. However, we did see a lot more colorways actually sitting on shelves. It's not too hard to jump on the Nike app or walk into a store and find a colorway of a pair of Dunks. But the really sought after colorways, the hyped up colorways, are still very alive. And I think that's kind of going to continue in 2023. I think we're going to see a decline in Dunks, but I don't think it's going to die off by any means. I think it's still going to be there and people are still going to want Dunks. Okay, now one of the most interesting things I think for next year is what Adidas is going to be doing after the Yeezy split. Or to phrase that better, are people going to be buying the Adidas sneakers from the now cancelled Yeezy collaboration? So the Yeezy and Adidas collaboration ended in October, and immediately after the announcement, Adidas made it very clear that they own all of the rights to all of the Yeezy designs. And we also found out that Adidas is currently sitting on $530 million of Yeezy product, which they're going to be trying to sell in 2023 to recoup some of the losses from this year. I've asked you guys on multiple occasions, what are your opinions on this situation? And ultimately, from what I've seen, I think the majority of people are not going to be buying these Adidas Yeezy sneakers. I will say that I have still seen a decent amount of people said that they will be buying these shoes, but ultimately, here's what I can see happening in 2023. We've just come off of a full-on year of just Yeezy restocks. Like, that's literally most of what happened for Yeezy as a brand in 2022. They just restocked a bunch of older colorways and models. So honestly, what can Adidas really offer in 2023? In my opinion, not much. I mean, they can't come up with anything new when it comes to Yeezy brand. We know that all they can do in this space is just restock colorways. I mean, they might be able to throw a new color on a pair of 350s or 500s or whatever, but generally speaking, they can't come up with any new models. There's not going to be any innovation from this set of Yeezy-less Yeezys or whatever we're calling them now. So initially, I think that there's going to be a wave of intrigue, people just genuinely interested at what Adidas is doing with these Yeezy sneakers, but I feel like eventually people are just going to get tired of seeing the same old thing, and I think Adidas will end up just killing it off completely. Now, something that I always appreciated about Yeezy as a brand, or the Yeezy collaboration in general, was the insane designs that we got from it. Like, a lot of the sneakers that we all love in the sneaker world are all kind of retro designs. They're all designs from the past, and that's perfectly fine, but what Yeezy kind of provided was something fresh and something new. You know, the wild stuff, the polarizing designs that some people absolutely hated, but some people genuinely loved. And I think ultimately the end of this collaboration is going to leave some kind of void in the sneaker world. And I think there's a great opportunity for this void to be filled, that some brand could come out and bring something new that we just haven't seen yet. And I think one really interesting category that I've seen a lot of brands explore this year is foam shoes and 3D printed shoes. This is a category that I can see really growing in 2023. It's been really awesome to see almost every brand's take on a foam style shoe this year, and a lot of these designs have been some of the wildest I've seen in sneakers. And something that's kind of been cropping up this year is 3D printed shoes, which I find really interesting. Zellerfield is a company that's actually at the forefront of 3D printed sneakers, and I've actually been trying to get my hands on a pair of their shoes. I definitely will in 2023 to just see what it's all about. But genuinely, I think that there's a lot that this category can bring to the sneaker game, and I think next year we're going to see a lot more development in this stage. Like, there's even some big brands like Louis Vuitton, their spring summer 2023 line is some kind of foam clog. We also got New Balance joining in with this pair of foam shoes, which I think is pretty interesting. But yeah, I could definitely see that this category gets expanded on pretty heavily next year, and it's something that I'm pretty interested in and look forward to seeing in 2023. Now, a trend that I can see dying off next year is the aged effect. People aging their sneakers was a massive trend. I believe it started in like 2020, it really took off in 2021, and it even continued into 2022. Now, what's different about 2022 from the previous years is that the people really carrying on this trend was the brands. Now, Jordan Brand and Nike obviously caught whiff of this, and they saw an opportunity to make some extra cash. So here in 2022, we got a bunch of different sneakers with some kind of aged effect to them. Whether it's cracked leather, aged midsoles, interesting vintage stories to go along with the sneakers. But generally speaking, they're kind of what's keeping this trend alive here in 2022. And I can really see this kind of dying off next year. I mean, Jordan Brand seems to think that they can continue this. They're dropping the Jordan 3 reimagines amongst a bunch of other ones that I can imagine have some kind of aged effect to them. But I think that we've pretty much seen everything to come from this trend. I don't think there's anything else that we can really see. It's kind of been beaten into the ground at this point. Okay, so I think the last one that I want to touch on is New Balance. I mean, it's an Instagram Explore page special. Just aesthetic sneakers that look perfect in a neutral toned environment with some kind of green plant in the background. But seriously, they've done some pretty great things that I've really enjoyed this year. They're comfy, well made, with great materials. But I kind of think to keep doing what they're doing in terms of hype and popularity, they kind of need to change something up. You know, maybe collaborate with someone other than Jown. I'm kind of poking fun a little bit, but honestly, I do think that New Balance needs to do something a little bit new or something a little bit fresh just to keep that fire hot, just to keep them pushing forward and staying in the spotlight when it comes to hype and trends. So I do think with New Balance trying out some new stuff, maybe collaborating with some out-of-the-box brands, I think they can definitely kill it next year. But guys, there you have it. That is all of my thoughts on the biggest trends that are going to be taking place next year. I would love to know your guys' opinion down in the comment section. But with that being said, thank you so much for coming through, hanging out for yet again another video. Thank you for liking, commenting, and of course subscribing. I'll catch you guys in the next one. But until then.